This video, I'm going to show you the magical power of two words. Those two words are I am, how you can use this in your life, and how using it will transform your life. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the magical power of the words I am, how to use these two words, because instead of just saying it without having the meaning behind it, won't have as much power as understanding how the phrase in itself works and why it is so powerful. So the first thing I want to say to you is I think that this video that I'm doing right now, I think it's one of the more powerful videos I've ever made, because it's going to tap into a higher vibrational state of consciousness, understanding who you really are to begin with. Because we come into this reality believing we are our ego, believing that we are the avatar self. And we forget who we are, because part of the purpose is so that we remember who we are. So when we identify as our ego and we're trying to change ourselves, it's the ego trying to change the ego. But you see, you're not even really just the ego anyways. You're more than that. You are an infinite spiritual being living a temporary human experience. And most people go about the law of attraction and go about self-development trying to change themselves from the same level of consciousness that they've created themselves to be. But the key to this is going beyond the ego self, going beyond the 3D avatar that we pretend that we are, and knowing who we really are. Because who we really are is divine, spiritual beings. When we say I am, it is not coming from the level of the ego. It's coming from I am is coming from the level of the divine self that you are. You see, who you think you are as far as your personality is something that's familiar that you've identified with in the past. You've identified with how you think, how you feel, how you act. Therefore, you've done everything you can to stay consistent to that way that you identify yourself. And you would say, I am my personality. This is who I am. But that's who you are on the surface, because deeper than that, you are source energy. But you forget this. And your natural state of being is meant to be feeling unconditional love, joy, peace, enlightenment. That's who you naturally are. But you forget that. So life is about realizing that you are a divine being, and that everybody else you come into contact with is also a divine being. And when you start to tap into this energy, your whole life will transform, because it's a higher vibrational energy. You realize that you're worthy of feeling unconditional love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Now, when it comes to I am, I'm going to share with you how I've even used this in my own life before I understood the whole divine aspect part of it. Because whatever comes after the words I am is what you become, is the vibrational frequency that you are. Now, back when I used to work at Nordstrom's and Women's Shoes, one of the biggest transformations I had while I worked there is, first off, it was cool because every single day I went in, I was able to kind of use it as a playground to see what thought processes, what kind of energy I'd bring to the table, and then what were the effects of that. So I'd go in some days, I'd just have fun, and I would see what kind of results I'd get. Then some days I'd go in, I'd have fun, but I have an intention, and I'd see what kind of results I get. Then some days I'd go in very serious trying to get a certain result, and I would see what kind of result I would get. Then I'd go in some days and see customers as a means for me to make more money, and I'd see what kind of results I'd get. Then I'd go in and see people as somebody I want to add value to, and I would see what kind of effect that got. And I was able to do that every single day, because every single day in a commission-based job, you start at zero. But it was really cool for me to be able to see the kind of effect that would come from that. So, one thing that was a game changer for me is I used to identify myself. I went from BP shoes, which is like brands like Steve Madden or Jessica Simpson, or like athletic shoes, cheaper shoes. About 2 years into it, 1.5 years, 2 years into working there, No, maybe 3 years. I then transferred to Salon Shoes. Salon Shoes is Jimmy Choo. It is more expensive brands. So I went from $1 amount on average price point to a higher dollar amount for average price point, and the type of customer also went to more expensive customers. Now, I used to see myself as more of like a mediocre sales employee. That's how I viewed myself. But then I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which is about the self-image. And what I did is I changed my self-image from saying and from believing I am a mediocre sales employee, which is on autopilot. Nobody would really normally say, yeah, I'm a mediocre employee. But I did view myself as like just kind of getting by. I worked like 4 days. I was the only person there that worked 4 days a week because I had every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, which was really cool. And I just was like, oh, I don't need to be a top. Some people did that for their career, and I was like, this isn't my career. I don't have to be a top sales employee. But then when I started playing with this idea, I went into work and I said, I am a top salesperson. I simply knew that every day when I would go in, I would check whether we'd have this sheet of the top salespeople from the day before. I'd go in every day and I would see my sales from the day before. And I would just imagine myself as being at the top of that list every single day. And I started to do this, and within days, I was a top sales person. I was a top sales employee. I'd go in every day and I'd be number 1 or 2. And the guy that was always number 1, he was like doing this for 20 years and he had a huge clientele list, and he was just, it was like what he was passionate about. Me, I was like just starting to see myself, I am a top salesperson. And within a short period of time, I was a top salesperson. That's the power of I am. I am still works at the same level of consciousness of the ego, but what I'm saying is even more powerful when you realize who you really are, which is a divine spiritual being. The other time I used this is when I was intending to go full-time on YouTube. Instead of saying I am someone trying to make it on YouTube, instead of trying to say I am somebody that's doing what I can and doing a full-time job and have this side hustle, I said no. This side hustle is my full-time. This is who I am. I am a full-time YouTuber. And within a couple months, that's my reality. I was making daily videos on YouTube, which I knew was a part of my identity of I am. And within a short period of time, I became that which I saw myself. It didn't take much time because you have to believe it and know that it is true for you. So when we talk about I am, understand that the limitations you currently impose upon yourself are what's holding you back. If you are poor and you're saying I am rich, it will never work. Because you're first off acknowledging that you are poor. You're trying to change the level of consciousness you're at and trying to change your reality from the level of lack. You are not poor. You must come at it from I am rich, from an empty vessel. You see, we're all divine empty vessels. And the moment we say we are at a certain level is the moment we put these self-limitations upon us. So you're not poor trying to be rich. You are a divine spiritual being that is claiming, I am rich. If you're currently working a job you hate, you're not trying to make it on whatever your full-time is. You are an empty vessel as a divine spiritual being that is then intending and saying, I am this. Whatever you say you are in that moment. But don't make the mistake of trying to change the ego from the level of the ego. You must first disengage from the old patterns. You must disengage from the way that you see yourself. And not self-impose that limitation. I realized that I was doing this in many ways when I was intending to get to next levels of my business or whatever I'm doing. But the key is knowing that you are an empty vessel. This is what Buddha talks about enlightenment. He talks about being empty. When Bruce Lee talks about being water, it's the same idea. It allows things to flow through. So, we are these divine spiritual beings that pick up on different frequencies. And the moment we even acknowledge that we are poor, that we want more abundance, is the moment we self-impose these limiting beliefs upon us. But instead, if we realize that we are divine spiritual beings, we then can move into I am presence and be that which we want. But don't make the mistake at the same level of saying, I am poor, now I am rich. Don't even acknowledge that you are poor. Don't put your attention on it. Attention is what feeds that reality in resonance. But if you disengage, that's where the power is. It's about acknowledging that you may in prior circumstances thought that you were poor, but it doesn't mean you're poor now. You are not who you were in the past. You are who you choose to be in the present moment right now. And if you say, I am rich, you're saying, I am rich because you're first off acknowledging that you are a divine spiritual being and that you choose to be rich. And you may be rich in emotion. You don't need the outer reality to reflect anything back to you because you know I am. I am, you are which you state yourself to be. To be, not to do, not to think, to be. At the being level. This is powerful at the being level. The being level is the acknowledgement of your divine self. And when your acknowledgement of the divine self is there, it's easier for you to be flexible in reality in that way. But everything up until this point in your life may have been on autopilot. You may have saw yourself as a mediocre employee or a mediocre business owner or whatever it is because it was on autopilot, but now you're aware of it. So because you're aware of it, you can disengage from the old story and not say, I am working a job I don't like, but now I am working a job I love. No, you weren't even working a job that you don't like to begin with. The key is to disengage from that story you tell yourself. The story you tell yourself is what keeps you bogged in at different paradigms and at different levels of ego. So the key to this is really acknowledging that you are a divine spiritual being, dreaming that you are this ego structure, and then knowing that you are who you choose to be in the present moment right now. Think of this resonance as like an identity lock. This ego way that you see yourself, that you're trying to change. The mere desire to change that which you are is saying that where you are is not good enough. You see, this is where transformation begins to happen, because then you can disengage from that identity and just assert who you are, because you are not even poor. It's just your past prior thought patterns were that you were poor. So the key to this is being aware of it and then making the choice to engage with this larger aspect of who you really are, which is this divine spiritual being having a temporary human experience, dreaming that you are this ego, but don't try to change the ego from the level of the ego. Instead, just be that which you choose to be by giving yourself permission. Do it from a higher level of consciousness. You are a divine spiritual being, and you choose to be, I am. I am. You don't really need anything after that. You can say, I am. I exist. Anything after that is a limitation anyways. I'm a YouTuber. What, like I'm not anything else? I'm a top salesperson. What, you're not anything else? It's all limitation anyways. So you are a divine spiritual being. You are who you choose to be, and by making the choice, you will begin to experience magic in your life. But disengage from the old level of identity by realizing it's just a prior thought pattern. It's not who you really are. And by changing that perspective, your whole life will begin to change. So something that I do have for you below is one of the most powerful meditations I've made. It's a self-image meditation that will help you to resonate with the reality you want. Not only that, it will help you to see yourself in a completely new way. Once you change your identity, you change your whole entire life. So changing your self-image is where the power is. Listen to the meditation below for 21 days. It will transform your life. I decided to put that meditation on YouTube because of how powerful it was. I used to sell that meditation. Listen to it for 21 days. I think it will transform your life. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification gear so you can see the daily vids that I do. That's the way YouTube does it now, is you have to hit that notification gear to see the daily vids. I got ones coming every single day. Other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.